Alright, turn 13, the last week of September. Dry weather conditions continue. Soviet player receives double replacement points this turn, but they can't spend those until the German player who has chosen a fight move sequence resolves these 3 battles here. There's a couple outside of Moscow in these fortifications, and then one down in Kaluga over here. The combination of ground support aircraft and the fight move sequence was brutal on the Russians. The Germans managed to eliminate 3 rifle armies, all 3 of their targets, and take control of Kaluga, bringing their victory points to 8, one shy of what they need to win the game at the end of the game. And not only that, they're now banging on the gates of the capital itself. A Soviet player placed 2 rifle armies, one in Moscow, one in Tula, as well as a full-strength mechanized army in Moscow, unfortunately unable to place one in this hex that's in the German zone of control. Okay, game turn 14, the first week of October. Weather conditions are actually, or should I say ground conditions, are muddy now, which means that we no longer can have dry or rainy conditions. It's just from here on out, we keep rolling for mud, frost, or snow, and ignore any other results. Mud conditions mean that the movement cost to enter clear terrain and forest terrain is increased by 1, and it also costs an extra movement point cost to cross the river Hexide. I was trying to find when an engineer army defends alone in a hex, it does so with a defense factor of 1. I don't think we've had that situation, but I'll try to remember that as well. But what I was looking for is this rule pertaining to the stock artillery concentration markers. It says here, yes, once per game during any game turn after the first advent of the first M weather, mud weather, the Soviet player may use one of his artillery markers defensively in a counter preparation barrage. So, to do so as soon as the German has declared an attack, then the Soviet player decides if he wants to support it in this way. Alright, so the Germans have picked a fight move sequence for turn 14. They've placed quite a few of these cubes. I'm not sure if they're being overzealous by doing so, but they're feeling quite confident at this point with sitting on 8 victory points. We've got up and down here, this area, the forest, good focus. Alright. In the fortifications outside of Moscow, as well as in the forest here, and targeting this guy. Very tough unit before it has a chance to enter Tula. And down here as well. Alright, we're about to enter the Soviet combat phase of turn 14. Here's the board at the end of Soviet placement and German movement. Oh, and German combat from last turn. The Germans can no longer advance 2 hexes after combat since ground conditions are muddy. This is as far as they made it here, but they managed to bring in all these units from Kalinin and through the forest here to create this scary looking tentacle, this lever arm, trapdoor about ready to shut, to slam down here and cut supply lines, start cutting at least supply lines to Moscow. There are quite a few supply sources here, so it's going to take quite a few units to do that, to completely surround it in that way. We're focusing units here around Tula. The Soviet player is going to be making an attack here against this 3-strength, 365 German infantry corps through the forest in hopes of breaking through and as these are faster moving units, maybe they can slowly but surely sneak their way past these slower units toward Vyazma, and I think they may have enough time to make it there by game turn 20. The Germans are kind of putting all of their panzers in one basket, so we'll see if that works. It'll be tough though, I don't know. At the very least it'll distract a few units here from Tula. Game turn 15, the second week of October. I'm really hoping I can end this before we ring in the new year. So let's see here. Actually, before people start arriving would be even nicer. They'll start to think I'm weird. Okay, so we have German combat fight move sequence. The Soviet player will be receiving double replacements this turn, but not until after the Germans resolve these attacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 over by the 6th then over here. So in hopes of maybe freeing these units to start protecting Vyazma. Here's the board at the beginning of Soviet combat, turn 15. We're going to attempt 2 attacks, one here and one here. But let me show you the situation of the board here, because we just finished the German movement phase. This unit's still up there. I was thinking of moving it back behind the river there, but that would just allow these units easier access back to Vyazma. These units making their way up and around. Some have crossed the river here. Moscow's completely full to the brim with defending Soviet units. And barely able to trace supply back across that river there. And we have one attack here in his act of desperation, and then over here still working at that unit in the forest, but as you can see it's backed by this 365 infantry corps, so they probably, even if they managed to break through, wouldn't be able to make it very far. And then over here German units crossing the river, so it's looking scary here. Alright, game turn 16, the third week of August. Ground conditions are still muddy. The Germans have managed to almost completely encircle Moscow, but since we moved these units back, the Soviet player is able to trace supply lines through this unit back toward their supply sources behind Moscow. We moved units back from the river here so that they can be closer to Tula, but couldn't quite make it to a hex that's adjacent to Tula. The German player will pick a move fight sequence, I think, and start attacking Tula. They will be able to cut supply lines to that hex before doing so, which is why over here we may hold off till the next combat phase until we can fully cut supply lines. Okay, I was wrong. The Germans managed to position themselves to put Moscow out of supply, and so after this movement phase and after the Soviet player placed a couple of rifle armies and the supply sources outside of Moscow and replenished a couple of units here, the Germans will be making an attack. 3 into the city itself, 1 down in Tula, 1 over by Rzev, 1 outside of the city here. All the German units are still in supply, and it's turn 16, meaning we have the second half of this turn left, and then 4 more turns until the end of the game, and the Russians do receive a few reinforcements during the first week of November. Then they receive their aircraft marker during turn 19. I think that at that point, I'm not certain, I may be wrong, but the German aircraft is returned. I'll have to check the rule on that. Then the Germans also receive a special marker here that doubles their attack factors in certain situations. Alright, so here's the board at the end of German movement, Soviet placement, game turn 18. The first week of November, weather conditions are still muddy. I don't know if I'm repeating myself in these videos, but anyway, we predictably will be, as the German player, attacking mainly within Moscow, and some urban warfare going on over here. An attack over here to try to cut supply lines again, although I think, let's see, it is to maintain the block on supply to Moscow over here. And there's a few replacement and reinforcement units that were placed on the board after German movement here, down here, as well as a couple down here. These are faster units. They spot a little bit of a weakness here in the German line, and maybe are hoping to see if I doubt they can do this with these panzer corps right next to them, but break through and take back one of these cities. That would be cool, but yeah, I don't think that they would be able to do that and have those cities in supply, but at least really at this point the Germans are sitting on 12 victory points and they only need 9, so taking this and even this by itself is not going to make a difference. Alright, so we're entering turn 19, the second week of November. We receive, as a German player, this marker, which is a Pioneer Division Moskva reinforcement, because he controls one or more hexes in Moscow in overland supply at the game turn start, and the Soviet player also controls one or more Moscow hexes. Supply state irrelevant for the Soviet units. So that condition is granted, and we may use this to double our attack factor against any of these Soviet units within Moscow. So, like they needed that. And the Soviet player receives this ground support aircraft marker at the same time the German player discards his from the game. I can't find this place in the rulebook that mentions that, but I recall that being the case. So we're about to enter the Soviet half of turn 19, the second to last game turn. The Germans are at 14 victory points, and yeah, I think I'm gonna wave the white flag and call it a game. Total German blowout. They not only managed to take control, conquer all these single city hexes, but also are now occupying 4 of the 7 Moscow city hexes. So yeah, total German major victory for the Germans. Tough game for the Soviet player, I think. And of course, you know, I am not playing it optimally or correctly, but I get a sense that in general this is probably going to be tougher for the defending player. Happy New Year, it's getting late, gotta get ready, enjoy the night, and I'll be back in 2014 with the next game. I'm debating a victory denied or something completely different, getting out of this whole World War II Eastern Front operational style game. I still haven't decided if I'm going to stick with it through another game or try something completely different. If you have any input, let me know. Thanks.